You seem bothered by something.
How did we get here?
A CDMP TV and film presentation from Crazy D, the mind who brings you the Black Ice Chronicles, the Females DVD, and Situations DVD, brings you The Shifter. It's Halloween night at Crazy D's. And a pesky vamp is out for blood. Beware of the shifter.
That's it. You gotta go beat it damn scram, man. Damn.
Why don't you be a doll and find me a place to change? I need a place to change my clothes before I go.
What? Don't try to hold me on the phone.
D! You been holding out on me?
No, I was just about to stop and help. You know I help the crackheads, D.
Some people just don't have originality with their outfits.
It's like I hear voices in my head talking to me and shit.
I saw that punk ass Charles Pippen and his cousin leaving here.
I learned the grace pose. Get your camera ready.
We're here, like we said, for trick or treat.
Crazy, what did you see? You seem bothered by something.
You see that shit?
Yeah, that crazy stuck in there. I don't know what the fuck that was for.
Right. She can't stand that shit.
Well, who's the pet bitch?
Like,
What the fuck was she mean? All hoes. I told her to scratch that poke that bitch eye.
Beware of the shifter. Be at the premiere if you dare.
Are you gonna listen to the move?
I've been out the loop since '09.
Yeah, I'll be back to get at that, though. Check this. I'm at the motherfucking house last night. Guess what the fuck I see?
What you see?
Shamika, what's up?
Fuck you think you fucking with? It's Maxwell, bitch.
Fuck you in them shoes.
Bitch, I'm about to stalk you with these shoes.
I thought I told you to get a jump to Crazy D.
I did give it to Crazy D. You know, D, you must have seen money in that. You know, he used to produce those nudie DVDs.
Fuck you, thin man. I know you did it.
Don't let your mouth write a check, so I will take it out on your ass. Damn, man. You serious?
I don't appreciate being roughed up by men. Or should I say, male bitches.
Yeah, you don't work out.
And we look for young ladies like you to host them.
I look like somebody that can host your videos.
That's right. So go change, cause we ain't got all day.
Get off the house.
Pretty good, though. I'm doing that bullshit.
Crazy. What the hell? How you in my room?
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart,
What's going on, people? Do we have a great show for you today? This is Crazy D, Welcome to #TFR Podcast Live, episode 48, right? Let me say that real quick. All right, episode 48, and let me bring in my special guest host, my sister Tanya M. Congress. Let's check out the mics and everything. Make sure everything is going copacetic this morning. How are you?
I am well, and as I was describing to you before we came on, I said I was trying a new beauty additive, and because when you have natural beauty, anything else just enhances. So it's nothing like getting something that's supposed to be a shortcut for you, and it ends up causing you to take the long road. Anyway, I can't stand that. Other than that, I'm doing well this morning. I have my barley water. I did remember to chill it last night so it could soak overnight. And I have a Honey Crisp, it's a giant apple. You see how much apples in this bowl? That's one apple. And it was a huge apple. It's Honey Crisp. And then I have my ginger. And I'm good and ready to go with today's topic. How are you today?
I am doing as well as can be expected under the circumstances, right? We are in the middle of COVID-19, novel coronavirus, right? And while we are in the middle of that, we are tackling various subjects that are important to the American Black community on this show that we call #Observations by Crazy D with my special guest host, Tanya M. Congress, right? So what's our topic for today? What is our topic for today? Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? Part 5 of Possibilities and Probabilities. Observations, episode 48. 213-943-3358. How do we begin this today? Our week-long series on possibilities and probabilities finish and culminate today with Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? 213-943-3358. When there are devils in our midst, able to kick the lingo most want to hear, talk results with very few existing to their name, what else should we call those who look like us but never produce progress for us but devil? What happened to the reparations H.R. 40? Was it all a show for Juneteenth? And what happened to reparations discussions within the politic in 2020? Oh, when it was 2019 and it was the 400-year anniversary of the first 20 landing at Jamestown, and they were all into it. They were talking about reparations, H.R. 40. But as soon as the election turned into full gear in 2020, There were no more reparations discussions. How can a quote-unquote black politician help another country's black population when he or she hasn't helped his or her own in the United States of America? Let's go over that again. How can a so-called quote-unquote black politician help another country's black population when he or she hasn't helped his or her own in the United States of America? Let's discuss. The phone lines are open. 213-943-3358. It is a Friday. Can you believe it is a Friday? So let's start with some memes. Let's start with some memes this morning. Yeah, let's start with this right here. All right, let's start with something as we warm up. We always warm up, so let's warm up here. Did you know Ava DuVernay is doing a docudrama on Colin Kaepernick? And she has cast Jaden Michael as the athlete and activist when he was a young child, right? Now, most people know Jaden Michael from Vampires versus the Bronx, which is on Netflix, and we reviewed that a few weeks back in our first episodes that have to do with what you watch during Halloween. So they have another meme where they have Jaden alongside when Colin Kaepernick was just a young boy, probably playing Bantam football, and they looked similar. So that's a good connect there. Okay, so here's another meme. If animals took selfies and posted them on FB, about to eat this idiot. Hashtag blessed. About to eat this idiot. Hashtag blessed. Yeah, that's a big lion too. That's huge. There's no way of him getting away from that lion. Not at all. Dinner. Now, here's a meme on perspectives of respect. Okay? And I'm going to see if you catch this off the top, Tanya. Replace N-I-G-G-A with brother. Replace B-I-T-C-H with sisters. Replace H-O-E's with women. Watch the respect level change overnight. Now, the key word in this is replace. Do you notice what that means when you replace something?
When you replace it, you're not really changing the meaning. You just replacing. You're exchanging one thing for another. But if in your heart you don't mean what it is you're saying, a replacement is just an exchange. It's not a change.
That's right. But it says, watch the respect level change overnight. But you're replacing N-word with brother. So if I'm still thinking of you as mine or that no good, I can't stand you, brother. But you still saying, you say, hey, sister, come on over here and get on your knees. But you're still saying, or you're saying, oh man, look at all these women out here. And you're thinking in the same way. Well, the replace doesn't change the respect level overnight, because the respect level will be the same because you're still thinking the same about the word. Because when I say brother, I'm not thinking N-I-G-G-A. When I say sisters, I don't think B-I-T-C-H. And when I say women, I don't think H-O-E. So I mean, it's just in perspective, psychological, mental perspective. I'm not thinking that. Smash the share button, smash the like button, because we're getting ready to get on the road. What is the topic for tonight? Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? Part 5. The finish, the culmination of possibilities and probabilities. Okay. All right. So I have a question for you, Tanya. I saw this meme and I thought this meme was pretty good. So let me bring it up here. I thought this was pretty good. Which one would you rather have? You can only pick one. A, 850 credit score. B, $2 million in cash. C, $4,000 a week for life. Which one would you pick? You can only pick one, and why?
Let me see. That's a hard one because I can think of reasons for all of them. Of course, let's see. I would take A, and the reason why I take A is because when you understand how wealth works, you understand that the wealthy, you think because they have a lot of money that they don't use a lot of credit, but that's quite the contrary. The reason why their scores are 850, that's like the ultimate score. So the reason why it is because they use credit quite regularly, and they're able to pay for things with credit, and then when they pay back into the credit, that's what boosts the score when they go to pay it. So they're never out of money, and they can take their cash and invest it so it can grow, while the credit score can enable them to use their credit, temporarily while they're doing other things. So yeah, I would take, having understanding of how wealth works, I would take 850. The other ones, 2 million, you can invest it, and some of the investments can go belly up. 2 million can go very fast, and $4,000 a week for life, that's still limiting you. It's still limiting you.
This is a brain teaser, people. Make sure you smash the like button, smash the share button, because this is information that you have to really think. I mean, you have to really, because it's a tease. Because I automatically eliminated A. I automatically eliminated A because what do I need a credit score for if I have guaranteed money coming from me? I can go buy what I want, and because I have money, people want to just give me things anyway. That's the way this society works. So A was out because 850 credit score, if there's a downturn like it is now with the COVID, that 850 can easily go 625. They could easily go 625, and that great credit score, because you got credit is debt. So I eliminated that. I mean, okay, wait a minute. I'm just going through mine. And so I eliminated that automatically, right? The 2 million in cash, that's right. That is a stagnant situation. So we're looking at C, and you know how they say that most answers on the test, A, B, C, and D, you pick C. It's usually the right answer. I picked C because you got 4 weeks. That's 16,000 times 52 weeks. What's 16,000 times 52 weeks? Add that up real quick. 16,000 times 52 weeks, right?
Let me pull up my calculator.
Yeah. So 16,000 times 52 weeks. So we have to look and really look at it. So
that's $832,000 a year.
$832,000 $4,000 a year times 5 years. How much is that? Times 5 years, which
$4,160,000.
$4 million. So automatically in 5 years you made $4 million. Now let's say that you had expenses and you had the regular grocery list, and let's say groceries, toiletries. Let's say they cost $15,000 times 4 weeks. No, every 2 weeks. So times 2 times 52 comes up to what?
Wait a minute, say that again.
So you're going grocery. Let's say it's $1,500 to every 2 weeks times 2 times 52 weeks.
That's $156,000.
Times 5 years.
$780,000.
Okay, so you have made $4 million, and you're subtracting how much?
$780,000.
That's it, and you have basically $3 million left within 5 years, but you're constantly getting $4,000 a week. So I picked C. I picked C for life. You are well off, and you are constantly getting something. So after you get well off after 4 years, even if you cut corners on that, you still have $4,000 coming a week for life. And so you're there, you have that, and you can take that $4,000 if you have that lump sum after 5 years and start investing it, and they automatically are going to give you a credit line because you are a million to billionaire pretty soon. What you say to that?
Yeah, but my first choice would have been C, except for once you realize to have an 850 credit score and keep it consistently at 850, you're already a millionaire. You're already a millionaire, so money is not the issue. The issue is understanding how certain things work as far as land acquisition and property acquisition and what they're looking for in the midst of this game that we're playing here in this maze. Just considering that, I would choose that at this time. But yeah, I mean, C is all, it depends. It's a matter of perspectives, because if you don't want to be locked into this system, you choose C. But if you still have things that you're trying to acquire, you choose A. Certain things. It's just knowing how certain things work. The 850 credit score, you have to already basically be well off to even have an 850 credit score. If you get one, average person, then it would be a concern if things crash. Your score is going to drop because you got too much credit out there. You're in debt. But for the rich, debt is not really debt. It's just juggling. It's not really debt to them, because they could pay off all of their credit cards. But when you pay off all your credit cards in this game, your credit score tanks. It drops. If you pay everything down to 0, it drops.
Right. So, just looking at it, C, I picked C because, and see, so these are twists because people, you buy land, houses for credit because, you're just squatting, but you're not owning the land. You're just you're able to get that mortgage for 30 years, but you get the money, you buy the land, they are going to give you a credit line, and people are probably going to give you millions of dollars because they see that you know how to use your money, and you didn't lose your money getting that $4,000 a week. So it all depends. It's all the game. It's all the game of money still, because they give people things who have things. People who don't have, they don't give. Here's another one. When you start healing yourself, ancestors show up. Do they? To protect and guide you on the path to your true self. When you start healing yourself, ancestors show up to protect and guide you on the path to your true self. And like we were discussing yesterday, not going back, but this meme came up, so I decided to grab it. It seems to come up after we have our shows, and so I just grabbed it. But if the ancestors were great, wouldn't they have solved the problem that is left behind for the rest who are left behind after their passing? Wouldn't they have solved it already? Okay. So here's another. Did you know that Cheaters now has Peter Guns as the host? Peter Guns is an MC. He's been on Love and Hip Hop, and he is I guess he must be a reformed cheater, because on the show it was alleged on Love and Hip Hop that he was cheating. And matter of fact, he had a couple of different women at the time, but he's the host. He's the host. I need headsets on that. I'm hearing feedback. Thank you. What do you got to say to that?
I think that's funny. I didn't even know that Cheaters was still, I know that it still comes on, but I thought those were old reruns that was up to 10 years ago. So he's the new host of Cheaters, but I'm gathering then that it's a resurgence of Cheaters, because I didn't know it was still current. I didn't know that.
The original host got stabbed up, I think it was a couple of times, but he came back. But he said enough was enough. I can't keep getting stabbed up, right? Okay, so now smash the share button, smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the Film Review Live channel on YouTube. We want to see 10 subscribers by the time that show is over today. Now listen. Elon Musk, humans must merge with machines or become irrelevant in AI age. Humans must merge with machines or become irrelevant in AI age. Now, on hashtag TFR Podcast Live, we talked about this when we talked about, surviving the machines. Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, says humans must merge with machines or become irrelevant in AI age. Where does that leave everything else that you believe? If you merge with a machine, where does it leave what you believe? Or would that be obsolete as well? What would you say to that?
Well, I think that in lines of beliefs, I think it beckons to everybody has to re-examine themselves when it comes to everything that, and I've been saying this for years, I've been teaching this for years, that because we are in the matrix, in the middle of a maze, in the middle of a house of mirrors, we have to re-examine everything that we've ever known in lines of spiritual belief. We have to re-examine that and look at things in a logical way. One thing is, when we think of God and who God is, what God is, so on and so forth, you cannot explain away logic. And so then when we want to explain away logic, we isolate scriptures. And for the record, for those of you who are not used to biblical interpretation or how to interpret scripture, the scripture itself says, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every matter be established. So in order to properly interpret a scripture, it must be at least one other one to corroborate it. Else, if you leave it as a standalone, this is where error is built. Error is built when you isolate scripture and take one and then build a thought around it, and you don't have supporting scripture in order to, because scripture backs up itself. So it's no need to try to create something unless you're trying to create a line of thought that's just going to benefit yourself. All right. So when in lines of that, we have to re-examine that and not use the scripture, well, his ways, his thoughts is not our thoughts, and his ways is not our ways. Not as human, but when you tap into your God, man, it is, his thoughts are our thoughts. His ways are our ways, or ours are his. So, and God himself is a spirit. All right. And so here we go. The spirit is inside us. So when we think about that, we have to re-examine things like we've never known them to be before. The things that Hollywood shows you, though it is so corrupt and so on and so forth, there is truth to their fantasy movies that they show. There's truth to other life forms. How arrogant would we be to think that out of all the other planets that were created, that we are the only one that has life forms on our planet? There are other planets that have life forms. Some planets, life forms can't survive there, but how do we know that? Their exterior, or they may not be made of flesh. On Mars. Mars is hot. We can't survive there. We would melt there, but there may be a life form there that is surviving on Mars. They may come here and freeze to death. You understand? So we can't be so arrogant and so have our minds so compartmentalized that we can't think outside of the box. That's not even how we were created. That's how we were trained in this matrix, to think in just being a box. So this guy, I've looked at him and I've examined him for a little while, and he looks like a devil to me. He looks like a person. He looks like a person that is operating on the other side. However, there is something coming, which is why we have to be at our best that we can be in order to be able to sustain in the middle of this. There is something coming. They're trying to completely replace humans, completely, but they can't do that because it's always going to take a human to run it. It's not going to be on autopilot and become self-sufficient because it's not created the way we were created as a life form. So it's always going to take humans to be here on Earth, but where we stand in it is depending on where we position ourselves to stand.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Like Skynet, if this computer age AI, artificial intelligence, becomes intelligent and turns on and becomes conscious, I don't know if they would necessarily need humans. I don't know. They say you're a scourge. You're a scourge. Okay, people. Here's one, Tanya. Which one loved their woman the most? Can you see that clearly? Which one loved their woman the most? Of course, you see, I'm not sure who that is to the left. I think that's somebody. But then next is Forrest Gump and his, what is it? Julie, or whatever her name was, right? But anyway, Urkel, Saved by the Bell. That's Jody, right? That's Love and Basketball. And I'm not too sure who those two are right there, and then that's up there. But which one would you choose and say, hey, they loved their woman the best? Thank you.
I'm thinking Steve Urkel. Steve Urkel lasted to the bitter end.
Even to being Stefan, changing into Stefan. Myself,
Right.
I want to pick Jody from Baby Boy. I think he loved his woman a month. He loved his baby's mama enough to, in the end, marry her and be starting a family with a second child as the movie faded to black. But in between time, he had to fight off his baby mama's ex, who had been in jail for a long time, and had to fight him off, and was willing to do what was necessary to make sure that he wouldn't be a threat any longer. So I would have to say that Jody from Baby Boy. These are mind benders today because you have to think in where we're headed. Okay, here's another mind bender here. You know, for those who are fans, it's mind bender. Here's a mind bender. What song made you become a Prince fan? What song? See, they show you all of the various Princes, right? Which Prince song made you a fan of Prince?
Well, I was a fan of his when I first heard him, so and it would be from the first album that was out on Warner Brothers. Now, he had some before that I got after that. So because I didn't hear those till after like 94, I forget it's 94 something. That was an album he did with some people in Minneapolis before Warner Brothers. But For You was the first album on Warner Brothers, and Soft and Wet was a song. And I like Soft and Wet because it was funky. You know, the subject matter, you know, it was what it was, but it was, I mean, it was well put together. Don't. I mean, the bass and the rhythm was just riding, and it was little things going on in between the beat, on the beat. It was funky. It was well constructed. So I really liked that song. And that was from the For You album.
Well, for me, the song that made me become a Prince listener, I'm never a fan, but you know, I was a Prince listener and I liked his music, was Bam! Bam!
Controversy. Controversy.
Yeah. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Controversy. So for me, it was controversy, and it was also that let's work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. To take that 45 and put the little yellow spindle in between.
Yeah.
I used to put the little spindle in between the 45 and be like, let's work. Let's work. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good one. That was a good meme. And I said, how far does people's knowledge of Prince go back? Now, this, you know, they've been saying that this is record-breaking voting right now. Record-breaking voting. This is what the media has been lying to you so long. Like, we're getting the mind of company to not listening to what the media is telling you. Okay, look. They've said that 74 million people have voted. I said 74 million, and it says it's a record at this time. Early voting. And I was like, early voting like it's a record. It's more people that have voted. And I kept asking, well, what was the vote count in 2008 and 2012? I've been asking that, right? Okay. So I just went to Google. Google is your friend. You know, no matter what the government is trying to do, you know, if you ask a question to Google, it's just like Ask Jeeves back in the day. And they made Ask Jeeves obsolete. So you go to Google and you ask the question. So I just asked Google, how many people voted in the 2008 general election? You have to ask the right questions to get the right answers. Okay, so let's look at this. Turnout statistics, election, voting age population, VAP, right? Right? Turnout, right? Percentage of turnout, right? Okay, so 2008, 200, I'm just going to round it up, 230 million people voted out of the population of the United States, which is 57.1%. In 2012, a little less, 235 million voted, and it was 54.9%. In 2016, it increased, but it was still lower than what happened. Well, actually, it was more than what happened by number, but somehow the percentage is off. Which I have to ask a question and say, that seems kind of strange. The percentage would be lower than the percentage in 2008, but it was more people that voted. It seems a little strange in the game. But anyway, 250, I'm going to just round it, 250 million people voted in the 2016 election, and they don't have the results for 2020 yet, but they're saying that 74 million people is a record at this time early voting. These numbers and these statistics tell me something. Do you see what it's telling you? Can you look at it? Can you tell what it's saying? Just those statistics.
It's saying to me that it is. Let's see here. That says 235 was 50. Okay, so what? Okay, so in 2008, it's 229,945, 57.1%. But it's more people in 2012, but it's less turnout. What? How are we figuring this here? And so we have in 2016, it's up by about 15,000 over the 4 years before, and it's only up by 1%. So how are they measuring these percentages in ratio to the voting population or whatever? What? I mean, they're going to say 74 million people were voting in early voting. And what does that mean? And who's saying that? Is it the Dems saying how bragging about, because early voting doesn't necessarily mean it was for you because it was early voting. I mean, big deal. Early voting, if they still, half of those votes can still, or over half of them can still be for a Republican candidate. So what difference does it make? It's early voting. To me, that's a joke. As I get spammed with, people have, whoever the old owner of my number was, I've had this number for like 2 or 3 years. So whoever, somebody used to have it named Felicia, and they have an old list because they sent me, hey, Felicia, it's Sandy, a volunteer with Stand Up America. Early voting is open in Ohio. I got one from Michael from the NAACP. I got one from Mildred. I got 3 from Michael, the NAACP, and 3 from Mildred from the NAACP. Not to mention all of the other literature that comes through the mail about early voting. And so I suspect it would be the Democrats that would be bragging about the early voting having such a turnout because they want to create the misnomer that, you know, they want us to believe that they're winning.
Okay. So there's two things about the turnout percentage. Maybe more, there's a larger population in the United States, so thus the percentage will go down. Maybe, or they're playing with the numbers. But the main thing that these statistics, voter turnout, right, and voting age population that voted and the turnout by percentage is telling me is that if 74 million people have voted already, and they're making a big deal out of that, but the Republicans are saying that Trump's people are coming out on election day to come out and vote, it appears to me that over 205 million people, 125 million people are going to come out and vote, and it looks like it will be a landslide. I mean, just by going what the talking heads are saying, and we're looking at the totals of what it was, and they said 74 million people have come out and voted already. That means that roughly 173 million haven't yet, right? Roughly, maybe a little higher, but either way, roughly those many people have not come out and voted yet, which is going to see a turn on this election. But we're not talking about the election because we don't have a dog in that hunt, right? But I'm just saying how the media lies to you and how a lot of people might just be disappointed, right? Now, this one I thought was a nice one. This next meme came from DJ Holiday, the original DJ Holiday. It said, yeah, remember those? Throwback Thursday, right? This was yesterday. Hip-hop moments should have been immortalized like this, right? Everyone had one of those as children, and I believe they did. Hopefully they did. If not, they were a little bit deprived, but it's okay. Which gets us to looking at perspective. All this was to set up your perspective. So what is the topic again for today? Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? Again, when there are devils in our midst, able to kick the lingo most want to hear, talk results with very few existing to their name. A lot of people who are in office have no results to their name where it comes to American blacks, and we are here to detail why that is tonight. Smash the share button, smash the like button. Tonight or today, this morning or this evening, this afternoon, whichever you want to say, but this is what we are doing on this show today. Smash the share button, smash the like button, because we are going on a bumpy ride. Put your seatbelt on. We were already bumpy in just the memes. It's about perspective, right? The possibilities and the probabilities of what is going on, right? Now remember, we're not talking politics. We're not talking about the election. We are talking about the positioning of black politicians and that black politicians are the devil, how far is too far? How far are you willing to go, right? When there are devils in our midst, able to kick the lingo most want to hear, talk results with very few existing to their name, what else should we call those who look like us but never produce progress for us but devil? What happened to the reparations HR 40? Was it all a show for Juneteenth? And what happened to reparations discussions within the politic in 2020? How can a quote-unquote black politician help another country's black population when he or she hasn't helped his or her own in the United States of America? The phone lines are open, 213-943-3358, but we are not discussing the election. We have moved past the election. We are moving into perspectives that help American blacks move forward, which brings us to our presentation of the day, our package of today. Let me bring it down. Now, we're going to go through this. Smash the share button, smash the like button, because there's certain things that you have to fill in the blank on. And this is what we do at hashtag ObservationTFR, right? Now, the person that I just brought up is Claude Anderson, right? Claude Anderson. Make sure that you write that down and you research Claude Anderson, okay? Now, what good are quote-unquote black politicians if they are only talk? So let's get to it, and then we're going to, of course, stop along the way and give context, right, to what we're seeing. So let's get to it right now.
Now, what did you think about Kamala Harris and Cory Booker? I know you said voting is an illusion.
They're probably nice people. They ain't gonna do anything for black folk. You say I have yet to this day ever heard or seen not one president, not one candidate for a public office ever get up and say, here's what I'm gonna do for black folk. That violates the entire premise of politics. Politics is a process that decides who's gonna get what benefits out of life. It's based on a very simple premise of quid pro quo. Politics, as you know it now, never existed until about the 1500s. And it says we will determine who gets what blessings and who suffers. And so consequently, nobody's ever stood up and say, here's what black folk are going to get. You're talking about the candidates. The first thing these black folks should be asking is not what candidate you're going to represent or going to vote for. Who cares? What you should be asking is, what are you going to get? What are you voting for?
That's right. What are you going to get in exchange for your vote?
That's right.
Now, to put this in context, smash the share button, smash the like button. Politics is about quid pro quo. What am I going to get for what I do for you? What am I going to get for me casting the vote for you? What are you promising me for my vote? Right? That's what he said. He said there has never been in his lifetime a politician that stood up and said, this is what I'm going to do for black folks in particular. Never has been and never will be. And it is not about cult of personality. We talked about that, right? So we're not going back. You have to go back to the previous shows last week to get cult of personality. We're not moving backwards. We're moving forwards, right? So it's not about cult of personality, but it's about what policies, what laws are going to be passed, what reparations will come. You see? So let's continue on, right? As we go through. Again, this is a piece edited by yours truly. You know, I take my credit. It is concise and precise. And when we bring in context even more, it gets even more of that. So let's continue on.
What do you get? What are you voting for? What are you going to get? If you ain't getting a damn thing, why are you voting? And see, black, and not one candidate in all the years I ran campaigns, not one candidate or one president or one party, political party, neither the Republican or the Democratic Party, Libertarian Party, Green Party, not one has ever promised that if I get the black vote, here's what I'm going to do for black folk.
It's the first year it's ever happened, and I think the only reason it's happened is because of all the hell that's being raised on social media. And, you know, like a lot of times when these presidential candidates come up here, we ask them specifically, what is your black agenda?
See, you're right. And what did she say to you?
Well, I mean, they all have little things here and there. The only person I've seen have a real live black agenda is Mayor Pete. He has the Douglas plan, which is based off Frederick Douglass.
Okay, right. And see, what most of them, what they're going to do is give you that old game that they used during the formation of this country in 1789. And they met up in Philadelphia and says, we're gonna build this nation, and we're gonna create a document that will make us the cradle of democracy. It's gonna be a constitution. And they said, and we're gonna make this a land of opportunity and freedom for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So they met in Philadelphia for a whole week. You know what they did for a whole week? They closed the doors and put the guards on the windows in Philadelphia, and said, "Now we gotta write this constitution, but we got a problem now. If we're gonna offer this as a land of opportunity for everybody, isn't it inconsistent and hypocritical for us to be getting ready to enslave all these damn black folk we're bringing into the country? It's how we're gonna get past that." They said, "Well, what we'll do, we'll run a game on them." They've been running that same game ever since. What we'll do in the Constitution, we use very broad and ambiguous terms. And certain terms, certain of those broad ambiguous terms would apply to whites and certain apply to black folk. So in the United States Constitution said, we the people, all God got a God-given right to life, living in pursuit of happiness. Initially, it wasn't even happiness. It was really a property, because black folk are going to be property. And so that's what it was structured on. And they said, what about black folk? When they read the Constitution, they said, what we'll do, let's use other words. Let's use code words like those who are indebted, those who are in bondage, those who are property, those are 3/5 of a human being, those who are equal to a field animal. And our people never figured that out. So you got all our civil rights leaders running around for years and running for public office like you're talking about we got rights. You don't have any rights in the Constitution. There's no rights for blacks in the Constitution. The United States Constitution in 1789 was strictly the first affirmative action plan in the country, strictly and solely for whites. And those.
So let me stop that right there. We gave the definition of what a person is, right? There's still the 3/5 compromise in the Constitution. We gave the definition yesterday of what a person is. Now, you have the rights as citizens, but personship, being a person, well, that's a whole different definition altogether. And this is what Claude Anderson is conveying to you. You got the right as a, I know it's shocking, You don't want to hear it. You're like, oh my God, I am a person though. That's why we need to know words, and we need to know definition. We need to know more than the connote. We need to know the denotative definition of words to understand. Yes, you are a human being, not by the Constitution. Yes, you are a person, not by the Constitution. Yes, you are a citizen. Yes, by the amendments in the Constitution. Yes, American black people, or to be a person, the plural of person is people. So wouldn't we say instead American black beings, because we are in a state of being, are citizens in the United States of America. See, we're going past elections. We're going past, we're going and showing you why someone can be cut down in the street. Good morning to Stereo. I see that you're on there. What's up to Tracy Latrice? Our producer, she's on. Good morning to both of you and everyone who is watching on Periscope, Vimeo, FB, and the Film Review Life channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, follow, friend, all those various platforms, right? That hashtag ObservationTFR is on. Now look, we're going past all of this. We are elevating past this. It's hard for you to know, man, I'm a person. Gotta go back and watch the show and listen to the definition of what makes a person. And if you do not hit that criteria, you are not actually a person, which means you can't say actually people, unless you're planning on tearing out and making a new. And that's something that American black people and the black diaspora seems not to do. They seem to want to get along, right? So as the definition of person, no. That makes you not people, no. Are you a citizen? Yes. But you're not a person. And by the Constitution, you are not a human. You are 3/5 of a human being. Whew. But you're voting because you have citizenship, but they can do all kinds of various things to you without you being able to truly have any recourse or address towards it, unless those who don't really see you as a person might be beneficent and merciful to say something, and maybe it would change. Well, we know that we're not on politics. We're moving past it. We're moving past it. Who are you? All right, so let's keep going with Claude Anderson. What did he say? You have no rights in the Constitution because you're not represented as a person. You're not even a human. You're a citizen. Yeah.
Those who later on could pass for whites. That's what it's about. Mm-hmm. Black folk are the only people in this country that can't pass for white. And when I left the White House with President Carter in 1970, the Office of Management and Budget says, we're going to now make everybody in here that comes in the country, we're going to start qualifying them as being white. See, up to 1970, as an example, Hispanics were always white. They were always whites. Mm-hmm. But what happened in 1970, I was over education for the state of Florida at that time, and I have the dubious honor of writing the second affirmative action plan in the United States, but the first one for black folk. When I wrote the affirmative action plan, it was approved by the governor and the state cabinets, the systems, but not. I didn't write it for minorities and poor folk, those broad terms, people of color, and for diversity, and for gays and lesbians and midgets and humpbacks and one-eyed people. I wrote it strictly for black folk.
So listen, is there any way that blacks can correct the resource imbalance?
Yeah, you can. See, and you start playing the game. That's why my second book, I wrote the first book called Black Labor, White Wealth, and which Ebony Jet calls the second Bible for black folk around the world. It sells all over Europe and into Africa. That was to show you every technique, every trick, every custom, every policy that the major white society used to lock black folk into a lowest level of a real life monopoly game. And they maldistribute all the resources, period. It showed us that in very graphic terms. I think you got to have a copy of that bottom book over there.
Yes, sir. Black Labor, White Wealth.
That's what that was for.
We got Dirty Little Secrets. We got more Dirty Little Secrets.
Right. Okay, thank you. Now, and this is what they call it around the world. They call this the second Bible for black folk. Mm-hmm. It shows you exactly what happened to you and that you have no rights. And power. I follow that with powernomics.
Oh, it's behind you.
Yeah.
There you go. Boom.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And this is a national plan. What was the question you just asked me? I ran past it. You asked me.
How do we catch up as black folk?
How you catch up? This is a national plan for black folk. It says a national plan to empower black Americans, period. And what you first thing you got to do, to make it long story short, you got to have what you never had in this country. That's a group self-interest. You've been inculcated and coordinated and brainwashed and believing that you got some obligation and responsibility to save the world. You got to save everybody first before you save yourself. Now, I'm a pilot. I don't fly anymore. I'm too old to be flying. One of the first things I would tell people on my plane as passengers, the first thing you do, if we lose cabin pressure at 30,000 feet, we don't have any cabin pressure at night over 10,000 feet. If you lose cabin pressure, a panel over your head will fall down.
Right.
When that mask falls down, the first thing you all should be doing is putting the mask on yourself. Quit trying to save everybody. Why has always got black folk marching, trying to save it? We're marching for gays. We're marching for women. We're marching for poor people. We're marching for the handicapped. And yet you only control 1/2 of 1% of wealth. You haven't got a snowball's chance. And in the end of slavery, as I said, you had 1/2 of 1%. Guess what? The average white person at that point in time had 3,500 times more wealth than the average black.
That right there. That's a lot to ingest and take in from Claude. He was on Breakfast Club in 2019, so I really don't understand where some of the members of the Breakfast Club are heading with what they believe is happening. But we're not talking about the election. We're talking about American black people, and we're talking about politicians. What does this have to do with black politicians are the devil? How far is too far? You stay with us. We do have a phone call. I believe that is Stereo on the line because he let us know that he wanted to talk. And so let's see. Let me see if this is Stereo. Stereo, is that you?
Hey, what's going on, dude?
What's going on with you? What's on your mind?
Yo, you know how you gonna be, and sister, how you doing? You know, let me tell you what really kicks me off, right? Is that we are saying, oh, we don't have rights. We read in the Constitution. They say that we're not human beings. Man, first of all, you know, you got a platform you can't curse on, right, D?
Yeah, you can curse. Go ahead.
All right, first of all, we're talk to to say what we are, who we are. This is the thing, and this to me what makes us as a race weak, because we looking to take, or we looking to do what they're doing or going to be a part of their system. We need to build our own system and be who we are. And then let us be a society. We jump in here on they're not equal to some goddamn paper they roll up. Well, that's just words before motherfuckers roll up. Let's write our own shit up there. Let's make us one. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
right. You know, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Decree and all that. Let's make us our own shit.
You know, I agree. Right.
Trying to get what they trying to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Am I making sense or am I talking crazy?
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying on the premise of it, right? On the idea of it, on the premise of it. But let me respond. There's too many of us that just want to be with them, right? And so when we're sitting, so when we're sitting and we are discussing this, like I said earlier, we know we're persons, we know we're people, we know we're human beings, but what the European writes on his paper, what's on paper is the way that they move, right? So we have to give people the understanding so they will know what they're dealing with. Why are young men still being killed in the streets, even though they say that they are supposed to, that we are supposed to be citizens of the United States? Because of the fact that we are not seen as personship, and they can do that because we are just citizens. And once people wake up to that, they will then begin to push the correct way. Because believe it or not, we're in you know this already. We are in a global system of white supremacy. So wherever you go, they have similar laws written, which means that we have to then eliminate those laws for us to live as true human beings. We have to get that stripped out, changed, rearranged, without the second paragraph being the one that says, okay, you're free of slavery, there will be no slavery. Oh, unless you're duly convicted of a crime. There's always a forked tongue thing going there. So until we eradicate what's written, we will not be able to be totally free.
But this is my point, D. All of them are just words because somebody decides to sit down and write. That don't make it law. Only thing makes it law because it's the system that it's read by. But if we create our own law, create our own decree, then we got our own system too.
Too many of us want to be with them, so we, as a minority within the majority in the world, are subject to what the majority of us want.
What you said that.
What'd you say?
I'm glad you said that again. But the thing is that it's been years of brainwashing. It's been years of looking at TV that's ran by the same society. It's been years of brainwashing. So what we have to do, you ever saw this movie? Because I know you in the movies. You ever saw this movie called Drop Squad? I know you saw that movie.
Fill me in. I might have seen it, not remember the title.
When the brothers would be like dressed up in military, then they go to the hood, like one of the dudes was like too quote unquote corporate, and they snatched them up in a van and took them down to their little spot and brainwashed, like reverse this brainwashing by
yes.
a whole bunch of riot stuff. And
yes.
You saw that before, right?
Yes. Eric LaSalle. Eric LaSalle.
Even though the movie was so prolific. But these are the things, in a sense, that was a good parody of what happened, but these are the things that we have to reverse that brainwashing. Because it's been years of brainwashing. It's not going to go away overnight. And this is why they don't want to be a part of that society and dictate it in that society, because they've been brainwashed to the American dream. Anything that's a dream, you wake up from a dream.
When?
You know what I'm saying? So we just got to change our thinking. Like one of my mentors said, we just got to change our thinking. You know, I don't mind if a person wants his race to be his race. That's his choice. But at the end of the day, what makes us a race that's to be kind of lazy or kind of like don't want to stand up, we want to fight for the system that they have. Say, well, they say this about us, we should do this. Why not create our own system so we can have that much power in our own system and we don't have to worry about that system? And we don't have God, who knows the best? The Jews. You look in New York and at the Jewish people, they got their own security system, their own police, all that. Anything about, even when the police show up, they shut them down because they police their own place. You know what I'm saying? It's society.
Okay.
You feel me? And they do what they do. So I'm just saying, that's my argument. If we get up and do something and make something happen, that's what we need to do instead of, they need to change the law. No, let their laws be their laws. But let's create our own system.
Okay. Stay with the show. I thank you for your call. Keep listening to the show because I do have part within this presentation that I cut talking about the Jewish state of Jerusalem. And so, stay watching it and then feel free to call back in again after you watch that because I would like to get your perspective on that afterwards. So I'm going to hold that and so go and keep on listening and hopefully you'll call back in again. Thanks for your call right now.
Okay, Dave, for sure.
All right, people. So look. Stereo brings a great perspective. Now, remember we're in a system of white supremacy, right? It's a global system. Whatever you want to call the system. You want to call it a global governing system where the different countries, the different governments in the country have come together and have come with an agreement about how things work. We happen to have a part in the presentation about Jerusalem. They still themselves had to get permission as a people to have this place, which gets us into talking about time. and how long it actually took for that to develop versus how long it has taken for there to be just a reparations package. Keep listening. Smash the share button. Smash the like button. Make sure that you subscribe to the Film Review Life channel. We want to see at least 10 new subscribers. Here we go. Let's continue with Claude real quick.
That means that 99% of everything in this country was in the white society, and it's still in the white society. I don't care from Vermont all the way to California, San Diego. 98% of everything of value is locked in the white society. 87% of it's frozen.
A lot still coming out of Nigeria. It's very important that we as an African people and, our Nigerian brothers and sisters hold on to the narrative and steer the narrative in a way that will be ultimately beneficial to them, because we're already seeing different agendas coming forward. And I'm very happy with
this. Let me stop you real quick. This is Dr. Mumbe. She has a show that comes on daily, multiple episodes that come on daily, speaking on different topics that's happening in the continent of Africa. She's in Kenya, but she's on the ground, and she deals with the 54 countries in Africa, right? And she's talking about the Nigeria situation with the czars and SWAT. We talked about that last week. We got 2 episodes about that last week. We have them on my page. You can go back and catch up. We're going to keep moving forward. She's getting ready to speak on Sheila Jackson Lee. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. This is the person that is on the front of the ad that we have here. Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far for black politicians to go? She is, for our interest right now, the poster child for this because of what has been happening. And remember, we asked the question, what does a black politician, how can a black politician affect change in another black, majority black country, predominantly black country, when they cannot affect change right here in the United States for their own people? Let's continue on. Now listen to what Dr. Mumbe has to say right here, right?
My U.S. subscriber who sent me this video via WhatsApp. It really, and she was like, I assume it's a she, but it could be a he. She was like, you were right. And it shows. I'm actually going to share the clip with you right now where this African-American congresswoman, she's part of the Nigeria Caucus of America. She talks about, first she goes into how she's standing in solidarity with the divided states, etc., and then towards the very end, and if you're not paying attention, you could actually miss it. She talks about how, the U.S. government should actually help set up and pay a police force that would give, Nigerians the dignity it deserved. And I warned you guys, you must control this and make sure that this, the revolution that is taking place in Nigeria right now is not hijacked.
As the chair of the bipartisan Nigerian caucus in the United States Congress, I am its chair.
How did Sheila Jackson Lee become the chair of the Bipartisan Commission of Nigeria, the CBC? Like, she's in the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, but somehow now she's in the Nigerian caucus? Like, what? Is she an immigrant? Like, is she an immigrant? Like, what? How is she all of a sudden the chair? Shouldn't it be a Nigerian, like from Nigeria, that has been naturalized, who got into the Congress, into the House and is a representative? Shouldn't they be the chair? How did Sheila Jackson Lee become the chair? Now, she's the chair of that, but yeah, last year she was talking about HR 40 and that it should be signed, but somehow that's been wiped under the carpet. It's not even being talked about. So let's continue with what Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who is she representing? This is duality or even triality. Let's see.
We were the first to go in to Nigeria when the Chibok girls were taken. The first Americans. That is the Congressional Nigerian Caucus. 3 members of Congress went, myself, Congressman Chabot, and Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. We were the only and the first. We spoke to the parents. We went to the North.
The Congressional Nigerian Caucus, right? We told you 22 million. We told you 22. I just go back and listen to the previous shows. We don't have time to go back. It's there though. We talked about it in the Nigerian episodes and even before then in different contexts, right? 22 million. We're 42 to 44 million. 22 of our little babies were aborted, or we would be 66 million. The Congressional Nigerian Caucus. How come the Nigerian Caucus isn't in with the Black Caucus, like fighting the same battle because they are not? But anyway, you need to go back and watch that. So we told you about that. We warned you about that. We told you, how's this woman playing duplicity? Now, did she see what she said with Boko Haram and the situation with the little girls? That situation was never resolved, but yet she was on it. See, we're looking for politicians to have results. And when there are no results, just going and making a photo op and standing there and proclaiming something, but you have no results because you're not put in place to give results, which makes people, we just talked about demons yesterday. What is the demon for talk but no action? Talk and no action. Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? How far are we going to be willing to go before we realize that the black Anyway, let's continue on. Let's continue on here. Let's keep on listening to what she has to say. Here we go.
And we ask the government to stand up against Boko Haram, to help those in the North, to bring justice to them. Yes. So I am a friend of Nigeria, but being a friend does not diminish the right to tell the truth. That's right. Come on. And so I come here today as a truth teller, to be able to say that Nigeria, now the largest nation on the continent, South Africa, the country with the population and the intellect and the resources to be.
Somebody half-heartedly corrected her and said Azania. They said South Africa, but I'm saying Azania, the actual name of Africa by black Africans. Azania, okay? And so they halfway, so she said she's got to come. Now listen to that double speak. She said she's a friend of Nigeria, but that does not mean, you see, that's just like, see, we got to put it together. That's just like, there will be no more slavery up unless you are duly convicted of a crime. She said, this is political speak. This is devilment here. I am a friend of Nigeria, but being that does not mean that I cannot speak the truth. So she's getting ready to tell you she's getting ready to down Nigeria. And she does just that. Let's keep listening, but that is that political. I am a friend of Nigeria, but does that not mean that I will not come here and be a truth teller? So let's see what truth by her perspective she is talking, and what point and what she's trying to get to. Here we go.
A powerhouse, not only on the continent of Africa, but around the world. Yes. In order to do that, I cannot suffer through a nation that will kill its young and its children, its petitioners who are petitioning the government peacefully. I can hear the shots of the military shooting the people in the street. I cannot suffer that. And it is important that you petition your government, this government, to be able to stand up. And so, we have now asked the Secretary of State, Pompeo, to stand in opposition right now to the actions going on in Nigeria.
Let's stop that for me. Okay, so she says she asked Pompeo. Now, the Nigerians that are there, they are clapping over a white man doing something. I just have to give you a perspective. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee comes there and she speaks about Mike Pompeo. She just asked. Didn't she say that when the girls went missing with Boko Haram, that she went there and asked the Nigerian government to stand up? What happened? Did the Nigerian government stand up? She just asked. You have to listen. You have to listen to the trick-a-tick. She is poor at phraseology. She is, in my opinion, D+ at best in phraseology. Did you hear what she said? She said she asked, and everybody was like, oh yeah, Boko Haram. Oh, most of them girls still in bondage, then grown up, had kids, and how many years ago was that? And okay. So now she just asked Mike Pompeo, United States. Now wait a minute. You're saying that the Trump administration isn't good for anything, but yet somehow you're going to ask the Trump administration's guy to do something that has to do with the Nigerians. You're just asking. Nothing came from you asking the Nigerian government to stand up during Boko Haram. And what do you think? What is the possibility and the probabilities of something happening when you're just asking and you don't have any power? You don't have anything behind you that you can hold out from someone because you have opened it up and gave it all. How are you going to have anything to bargain with to make them move? You don't. Because you're nothing but a citizen. You're not a person. You don't. Go listen to the definitions yesterday. Okay, let's continue on. Let's continue. This is crazy.
Today is Juneteenth, a day that commemorates the announcement of the abolition of slavery in Texas and more generally throughout the former Confederacy on June 19, 1865. The news of the Emancipation Proclamation did not reach Texas for 2 years, and so it was not until 1865 that all enslaved people knew they were free, despite President Lincoln's emancipation announcement. Slavery was a crime against humanity. Slavery was a crime against humanity. Slavery was a crime against humanity. One would.
I have to repeat that. Slavery was a crime against. Slavery was a crime against humanity. What happens when that designation is put there when it's not just talk? Oh, there is some kind of reparation that is put forth. If you know that it is a crime against humanity, then you move to make it so the people are made whole. Let's continue because we have the Jewish situation coming in, and we're going to see how long it took for Jerusalem to be formed. Doing the research, I found out it's a two-step process to how Jerusalem didn't start after Hitler ovened our Jewish brothers and sisters. No, it didn't. It started after World War I. Did y'all know that? Oh, but we have it for you. We have to give context, and we have to go into time. Time is very important. We spin our wheels on the hamster wheel, going around in time and letting time lapse against us, and each generation seems to forget. So we are here to make sure that you don't forget. So let's continue. Crimes against humanity. Matter of fact, look that up, Tanya, and give the definition when we come back, when we take the next break from it, okay?
Whose impacts we as a society continue to grapple with today. This year also marks the 400th anniversary of the first African slaves being brought to America. Slavery was our nation's original sin. Our Constitution protected it, embodying it in various compromises that gave disproportionate power to slave states.
It's how we're going to get past that. They said, well, what we'll do, we'll run a game on them. They've been running that same game ever since. What we'll do in the Constitution, we use very broad and ambiguous terms. And certain terms, certain of those broad ambiguous terms would apply to whites and certain apply to black folk. So in the United States Constitution said, we the people, all God got a God-given right to life, living in pursuit of happiness. Initially, it wasn't even happiness. It was really a property, because black folk are going to be property. And so that's what it was structured on. And they said, well, what about black folk? When they read the Constitution, they said, what we'll do, let's use other words. Let's use code words like those who are indebted, those who are in bondage, those who are property, those are 3/5 of a human being, those who are equal to a field animal. And our people never figured that out. So you got all our civil rights leaders running around for years and running for public office like you're talking about we got rights. You don't have any rights in the Constitution. There's
hate crimes, white supremacy, the legacy of slavery, the legacy of Jim Crow, all hold back our country's longstanding efforts to carry out what the preamble to our Constitution says it is designed to do, to form a more perfect union. Reparations in the context of H.R. 40 are ultimately about respect and reconciliation, and the hope that one day all Americans can walk together toward a more just future. I hope that the commission established by H.R. 40 can help us better comprehend our own history and bring us closer to racial understanding and advancement and justice.
And now I'd like to recognize the gentlelady from Texas for an opening statement, Ms. Sheila Jackson Lee.
Okay. What is the definition of crimes against humanity?
All right, the definition is, drum roll, or acts of aggression, a deliberate act typically as part of a systematic campaign that causes human suffering or death on a large scale. A deliberate act typically as part of a systematic campaign that causes human suffering or death on a large scale.
That is crimes against humanity. And you know what happens after crimes against humanity? Boy, I'm telling you, they put together tribunals, they put together, here this is with the H.R. 40. It's been 400 years in 2019. We are on 401 years. People have been diverted off of what the original plan was because the Negro Whisperers said something in 2019 about reparations, and then when the campaign kicked into full gear in 2020, when the vice president was picked and all that, no more talk. But we are not talking about the campaign. We're talking about how our reparations keeps getting kicked down the road. Another 50 years like healthcare was kicked down the road for another 50 years. But anyway, so let's hear what Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila Jackson Lee sounds good when she gets up there. She puts that bass in her voice. She becomes commanding. She says, this is something. Now, you listen very closely because there is ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. She says, African descendants of slavery, which is wrong. This is what Sheila Jackson Lee says. It's wrong on its face, in its precept, and its concept, because by the time we were free, there was no more African. We had created our own cultures and concepts and precepts of how we lived our life. So what she's saying is to go purposefully opposite ADOS. So let's go through. Let's listen to what Sheila Jackson Lee has to say. I'm telling you what type of... Anyway, let's go through it.
Chairman, thank you very much, and thank you to Chairman Nadler for identity of H.R. 4 as a legitimate legislative action that should receive the full hearing of this committee, should in fact have a markup, go to the floor of the House, go to the United States Senate, and be signed by the President of the United States of America. This is an action of legislative commitment, and this is not a symbolic action, though I am gratified that we are having this hearing on Juneteenth. And for those of us who understand Juneteenth, 2 years after the proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, there were those Africans who did not have freedom until 1865. So let me begin and indicate to my friends who have expressed a variety of assessments of H.R. 40 and say that America is a place that welcomes the diversity of thought. We even welcome the diversity of thought among the multicolored chocolate people that are African Americans, descendants of African slaves, descendants of African slaves, descendants of African slaves.
African Americans, descendants of African slaves. Oops, wait a minute, problem. They stopped the transatlantic slave trade and they started breeding farms here. By the end of slavery, the connection to Africa was cut.
Tell them.
The connection to Africa was cut. I mean, this is nice for her to gloss this. Just our observations, just our opinions. Hashtag observations TFR, right? It's nice for her to say that, but they had breeding farms. As a matter of fact, if you swab your mouth and you get, every year you start getting like 20 different people, that meant that you were one of the ones who were really affected by the breeding farms, and you are actually Yaqub's travels. Yaqub's ideas traveled to the slave owners here, and you are bit of this, bit of that. Got your teeth like this, got your eyes like that, got your skin like this, got your breasts like that, got your butt like this. So by the time this happens, so she purposefully does this, but yet she is the chair of the Congressional Nigerian Caucus, but yet she's a member of the CBC. But yet we're all Africans, but yet the Africans coming over, they need to be so separated. They need to have, they don't believe the way we believe, and they're trying to get along, and it's just going to be a decade or so their kids going to just ask the Aubrey family. But anyway, so she's sitting there, and she's saying this is duplicitous. Let's continue on.
Let me be very clear. It is only this group, even though they attempted to enslave Native Americans, it is only this group that can singularly claim to have been slaves.
So all you got to compete for is about 13% is up for grabs. And if black folk don't learn how to compete for that 13%, you are through. And right now, that's what's happening around the world. You see all these, we're going to implode in this country. Same thing happening in Germany with the Jews And there was a book out called Hitler's Willing Execution to say the same thing. When certain kind of things began to happen to you as a group, you better be very careful. And they wrote that as a big, thick book, and about what's going to happen. And they started exterminating the Jews. Why? Because you got a group now that you all don't know about called the Council of 300. What they want to do now is say, we got too many people on the earth, and we're going to start losing resources. There aren't be enough resources left. We got water. We're going to have water shortages coming. And when water shortages come, what follows that is food shortages. Right now, 20% of the world is suffering from water shortages. We're going to start having water shortages in this country. We have water shortages and have food shortages. So what the council and all these rich people on the earth are saying is that we got to start getting rid of some of these people. We're going to start with the non-producers. Now, who are the non-producers in America? The only people in America that produces absolutely nothing except sweat is black folk.
This episode would weaken the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, besieged on all sides by neighboring powers. In 150 years, the regime falls and its territory is carved up. The Jewish community is divided, and 900,000 of them find themselves in the Russian Empire, where...
Let's go through the Jewish situation, right? Let's go through it. Now, this is showing you, we put this in to let you know, because a lot of people like to talk and say, hey, you know, we don't need this, we don't need that, you know. Black people were going through this in America as this was going on to Jewish people, right? Warsaw got swallowed up. But check out the years. Check out the years, how long it took for after Warsaw was swallowed up and the Russians started to brutalize Jewish people, how long it took for them to escape, basically, and then set up with powers of certain governments, set up Jerusalem. See, it has to be given, it has to be politic, it has to be cajoled, it has to be discussed to get your own land, to set up your own thing, and then it has to be recognized and ratified and seen as a state. So let's go through this. This is interesting.
They are not welcome. They quickly become the targets of attacks called pogroms, a Russian term meaning devastation. Given the lack of response from authorities, these attacks become more frequent and deadly. The Jews then emigrate to the United States and Western Europe, which in the meantime has improved their living conditions. It is in this context that the first Zionist Congress is held in Basel in 1897, contemplating the founding of a new homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. But the Ottoman Empire is fiercely opposed to the project. A few years later, the First World War breaks out. The Ottoman Empire fought alongside Germany. When the Allies were in trouble and desperately sought further support, the then British Minister of Foreign Affairs, Arthur Balfour, wrote an open letter promising a Jewish homeland in Palestine in return for Jewish support. Meanwhile, the British tried to weaken the Ottoman Empire by supporting the Arab Rebellion and promising them independence in liberated territories. At the end of the war, the Ottoman Empire was defeated and its land carved up by European powers. The British give more independence to Iraq and Transjordan. It is in what remains of Palestine that Britain wants to create a Jewish homeland where the Jewish community was a small minority. But immigration grows rapidly due to the tense situation in Europe, especially in Germany.
So you see, the English, Britain, defeats the Ottoman Turks and then divides up the land, gives land to Jordan and Iraq. They give the land because these are two people who split up from being Ottomans and broke away. They probably had a rift that was artificially put into place, and then they had a riff and they decided to call it, I'm Jordanian, I'm Iraqian, and then they split, and then they cut annexed off that slither of land and called it Jerusalem. Now, let's get the calculator. Subtract 1897 from 1922. 1897 from 1922. This is how fast things move when they want things to move. They didn't set up a tribunal. They didn't set up a listening. They didn't set up a commission. They didn't do anything. They did this, and then as the war was ending, they divided it up. Something that they did behind closed doors because they already had the instruction from 1897. What was happening in America in 1897? We 1877, 20 years before that, what was happening to American blacks? They were being considered what? Go back and watch our shows. We told you. We're moving forward. How long did it take for them to make Jerusalem?
95 years.
95 years. Just off of a council that met. Then the guy writes the letter in 1897, and then by 1922, Jerusalem exists where it didn't exist before. 95 years, right? 95 years, right?
95 years.
95. That's all 95 years. People would live that long and see it come to fruition. Somebody that was 5 years old would be 90. Oh, 90. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Somebody just born, they would have been coming through it. They would be 95. Somebody was 5 would be 100. They would see this, right? They would see this come to existence. Somebody that was born 95 years at 0 would be 95 and see it. How many of the descendants of slaves were around and have not seen their people get reparations? See, this shows you that where there is a will, there is that's education. Where there is a will, there is a way and a determination to get it done, no matter what people think, no matter what people say. We're the only ones sitting up saying, I don't need that. The Jewish people didn't say they didn't need it. They took it. They said, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
With the anti-Semitic Nazi Party came into power. In September 1939, Germany invades Poland. Britain and France respond by declaring war, sparking the beginning of World War II. In 5 years, the conflict claims more than 60 million lives, including almost 6 million Jews targeted by the Holocaust. Following the war, Jewish immigration to Palestine grows, increasing tensions with Arabs. Overwhelmed by the situation, the British begin their withdrawal from the area. The UN takes over and proposes to divide the region into 2 states, with Jerusalem being given a special status of an international zone.
H.R. 40 is in fact the response of the United States of America, long overdue.
No long-winded speeches on television, no hearty, oh yes, and exactly, H.R. 40. How come H.R. 40 wasn't ran through and laid out and done that and was ready to sign on Trump's desk? You're talking against Trump, but yet you're talking about him signing something. I mean, it's ridiculous. On its face is one big lie, and it's no way else that you can cut this. Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? How far is it going to be? You know, it only took 95 years to create Jerusalem. 95 years. We're at 401 now. We're still trying to get the reparations. It's going to take 495 years. None of us are going to be here to see that. Wait, let's continue.
Slavery is the original sin. Slavery has never received an apology. This commission will be comprised of members selected by the President of the United States, the Speaker of the House, the leader, and of course, those who've been entrenched in this process.
Secondarily, we've asked the chair and the chair of the National Security Council of the United Nations, and as well the General Secretary, that they must address the President of Nigeria, Mr. Buhari, on the violence, and SARS must end, and SWAT. I want a law-abiding country. I believe that law and order is important, as it is here. And many of you know that we've suffered some tragic losses in the last days. But what we need from Nigeria is to...
She said that she believes in law and order. Did you hear that? She said she believes in law and order, and we have, in America, has suffered some losses just recently. That's the young man in Philadelphia who was having a mental break and had a knife in his hand, and they shot him 12 times. Dead. But she believes in law and order, so listen to what she proposes in another person's country. Listen to what she proposes in Nigeria. Now, we're having trouble with police here, but you're talking about police and who would fund the police. Listen.
Set up a police force that acts in dignity and base its facts or its service on public safety. Yes. We must pay them. We must provide for their families in Nigeria. We must give them a decent income. We must recruit those who have come to do good. We must not force them to do evil or to do bad. And we cannot take out groups like the LGBTQ community.
You heard what that lady said, and at first you can feel like, and sometimes they'll use people that look like us. Sorry guys, I'm not even finishing my sentences. Sometimes they'll use people that look like you and me to deliver an agenda that is against you and me. And that's something we just have to be mature enough. And like, you guys, it's time to adult right now. Like, things are thick, things are really happening. And for that suggestion that, the divided states would actually sponsor some kind of police force, and help finance it, to keep Nigerians safe and give them the humanity and dignity they deserve. That is all spell work, beloved. That's gibberish.
Did you hear what she said? She said that's all spell work. What have we been telling you about spells? Words as spells. That's all spell work. And in my opinion, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is not good at that spell work, because she just shows you where it's been failure, and then it's going to be a failure again because it comes from off of that failure. That is a spell. She's in head of HR 40. A spell set to fail. Her phraseology is off. Phraseology is the way to spin words into spells. You need to go back and watch our previous shows. We're giving it to you. We're putting you up. You have to be ready, because when you're joining involuntarily with the artificial intelligence, you will have wished that you had listened. Let's continue.
It's never a good idea for a foreign nation to even suggest. And when you see whispers like this, you know, if the Nigerians in the diaspora are not careful, then this entire process will be hijacked and it will work against the Nigerian people.
1 million African Americans are incarcerated. That is a continuing impact. The black employment rate is 6.6%, in spite of what has been said currently, more than double the national unemployment rate. 31% of black children live in poverty compared to...
I remember correctly, under Obama, it was 9-point-something%. You know, I'm just making context of what's going on. As she said, in spite of what was said. I mean, I don't understand. Anyway, let's continue.
11% of white children. The national average is 18%, which suggests that the percentage of black children living in poverty is more than 150%, even in spite of the glorious overcoming of the talent that is part of our community, the scrapping together of making sure our children received education, the putting together something out of nothing. We still have been impacted.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, all of our people that are supposed to be successful, guess what? The only thing they do is sweat. They're running with balls, football, basketball, baseball, tennis ball, golf ball, singing and dancing, producing sweat. Nobody's buying any damn sweat. And how are you going to feed yourself? Right. We don't produce anything. We don't have any industries. And we had a chance to get industries in 1700s when the Industrial Revolution went through Europe. Black folk were slaves. When the Industrial Revolution went through America in the 1800s, we were still enslaved. We own and control absolutely nothing.
You don't think that's changing now a little bit?
Oh, man, no. It's getting worse. As a matter of fact, let me give you a difference. Right now, we got all these people that you're running for public office talking about. We gotta look for eradicate poverty. You cannot eradicate poverty. Poverty is a fixed. It's a given. It's a given. You cannot eradicate poverty. Why? Because just like you can't eradicate, you got an up, you got a down, you got an in, you got an out. That is a fix. You cannot change it. And they always got people want to eradicate poverty. What you should be saying is leave poverty alone and go down and try to figure out how to get black folk out of poverty. Don't be trying to eradicate poverty. Leave poverty alone and get blacks out. And see, so they, well, we need to have more equality. On a race-based society, you cannot have equality. It's impossible. The whole point of a race is a contest.
That's right.
See, a race, you all don't go to the Kentucky Derby to try to have all the horses being equal, do you?
No, you want one to win.
You got it again. You're a smart man. you want to see who comes in first, second, or place.
Right.
And so yet in a race-based society, why is it called a race? Race never started, never existed on the earth until the 1500s. See, and that's when it started. That's where racism comes from. They didn't pick racism just out of thin air.
It's a social construct.
It's a social construct. Yeah. It's a social construct. They started, what we're going to do now that Columbus discovered America, you got in 1492, we got a lot of land over there. It's pretty much vacant. And we need to go over there and try to get that land. And what they said is, well, let's go back. How are we going to do it? And they said, well, let's see. Back in about 1446, we had a guy named Henry the Navigator that went around the coast of Africa, and he picked up about 16 blacks, Africans, and brought them back to Europe, gave them to the Pope in the Vatican. And the popes that we use is as slaves. And so the Vatican used blacks as slaves. That was one of the first ones, from about 1446 up to about 1488. Then Pope Innocent came out and said, well, having these people as slaves, that's a good thing. And so why is that important now? Because you see, the Fox Channel be telling you all, while blacks complain about being slaves, we've always had slaves. No, you have not. You may have had slaves, but not based on skin color. And Pope Innocent came out and says, in the future, don't enslave anybody based on a traditional manner. You can only enslave people for being either a prisoner of war or for personal indebtedness or religious persecution. He said, let's skip that now and enslave them based on skin color. That was her start. That's her trigger in 1488. So when Columbus discovered America in 1492, he had all this land over here. In that particular time.
Yeah, water for you if you need.
Excuse me, thank you.
Yes, sir.
At that particular time, Europe was being decimated. Europe was under major problems. The entire European continent was being decimated with crime, famine, diseases. They didn't know what to do in the late 1400s and early 1500s. So when Columbus discovered America, they had all this land, and Pope Innocent said, use these people. Let's have a new form of slavery. No longer based on religion, personal indebtedness, or prisoner of war. Let's use them skin color. And so by the 1500s, we can use that and save America. So a race started. A race is a contest. That contest started between 9 European nations. Portugal, they all said, let's get in a contest so we can go to the Americas first and capture all that land and build wealth. That's what they came here for. Now, you all get by that stuff about they believe in about the Constitution, but they came here for religious persecution. Nobody came here for no damn religious persecution. They came here for happiness. Nobody can get on a damn boat and sail across the Atlantic, come into America for happiness. Then that's stupid. They came here for enrichment. Every tourist immigrant came to America. They came here for personal enrichment.
And I wear the colors of our red, white, and blue because that flag is to stand around the world for what is right, what is humane, what is decent, what is orderly, what is democracy, what is just, what is equality. That's right. And we will continue to press the present government of the United States to take a very important step in asking and demanding that Nigeria recognize that the world is watching.
We must.
Okay, so that's it for that. So look, we've got 4 minutes. You've got 2. Go ahead and close out.
This is some very important information, and as I look at that person who is a representative in our country who dropped the ball on a suggestion she suggested and then dropped the ball on. This seems to be a running theme amongst Black organizers and Black people in positions and sitting in these seats in this country. You know, you had BLM, they was on a deceptive agenda. Then they just picked up and left and went and formed something else. You got this person that's a representative in this country. They come up with something to get your ear, is to get your attention, is to get your, try to gain your confidences. And then next thing you know, voila, poof, it's disappeared and nobody knows where it's at. And I mean, this is not acceptable. And we're going to have to hold these people accountable for what they do. It's like it all becomes a game. So, I mean, what is this? You're going to be raped by people that's not your people, and you're going to be raped by your own too, because they got their own agendas and their own sub-agendas that they got their hands in the pot and trying to create something for themselves and leaving you out of it. They need your body. They need your votes. They need all of that. But nobody's talking about what they're going to give the people, and you're not really giving us anything. You are paying what is owed and what is due, and the Black person in office especially is responsible for taking on that task while they're in office to do their due diligence towards us.
All right, people. So look. Black politicians are the devil. How far is too far? How far do they have to go before you realize that their agenda is not about American Black, for sure? So people, and this is not about an election. This is about a system, a structure that is in place. We are beyond the election now. We are beyond the election now. This Sunday coming, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, it's hashtag TFR Podcast Live, the film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. We're going to be reviewing more films and bringing a perspective where we bring the reviews that save you pocket revenue. That's right. This has been a robust week. You got 5 episodes, 2 hours each to go back through. Possibilities and probabilities. Possibilities and probabilities, part 1 through 5. We lay it all out there for you. What more would you need? We will see you again on Monday. We come on 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Make sure that you smash the share button, the like button, and the subscribe button on the Film Review Live channel. And we will see you next week on #ObservationTFR by Crazy D with my special guest host, Tanya M. Congress.
Here's the thing about Germany, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Community, heart, crazy.